This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Tim, we might be having the best weather of the country today.
Yeah, humidity lifted and feels like a little hint of fall kind of creeping in there, but it's not cold. It's like 80, but it's so
All
dry.
of these threats of storms, they just miss us, which we're very lucky about
Yeah,
that,
we
I
haven't
think.
had, New York State, so everything around us has gotten some pretty bad shit this year. We haven't, except for our forest fire smoke from Canada situation
Which
that
right,
happened.
which was then and not now.
Now, yeah, but
So
besides that, it's been pretty fine. We weren't here during that one week where I guess it was like
no, but
96 and 100%
but we
humidity.
were in Italy, and that brings me to our first story.
Sure, sure.
And what a horrendous way to go. So I didn't know him personally, but the boss of an Italian cheesemaking company was crushed to death
Oh
under
boy.
15,000 wheels of cheese in his own
Oh.
factory.
Yes, well, industrial disasters, I mean, these are always kind of exciting from afar, meaning like 100 plus years.
Uh,
Um, but
Giacomo Ceparini, 74. I guess he lived a good life. A shelf broke, and the wheels of cheese, one of my favorite, Parmigiano Reggiano, they can weigh up to 40 kilos each. Terrified. And there's
whoa,
even a
whoa.
picture of the cheeses on the shelves. It's just absolutely terrifying. Anyway, leaves behind his wife, two children, several grandchildren. He was trying to control a robot that automates the cleaning process for the wheels of the cheese. And it just,
I mean,
technology, it's not
food
always in our
food is
favor.
always it's still I've brought it. This is the third time I brought it up on this podcast. It still doesn't top the Great Molasses Flood of Boston in 1919. That's next level. A
Well, I
tsunami
mean,
of molasses.
this past week there's been a nacho spill, a chocolate spill, a lemon spill, and that's not really hurting anybody. But we know, I mean, industrial accidents,
I
ridiculous,
mean, with
whether it's
food,
in
with
the
food,
slaughterhouses or
it's
farm. Yeah.
always, it's always a little funnier. I mean, from a distance, we don't know the person, but again, they lived a nice life. And to be honest, if I was that guy, I think if I was gonna go, I think a wheel of cheese is way cooler than just like rotting in your bed from
Yeah,
some
well,
disease.
15,000 wheels of cheese might be a little much, but it might be a better way to. I mean, some people are really taking patriotism too far. We know that in this country, they don't even know what it means. But this is just ridiculous. An Oklahoma man is accused of thrusting a flagpole through another man's head
Oh
at a
boy.
Sonic restaurant.
Why was he claiming his territory by with a flag
Well,
going to Sonic?
they responded to a call on a stabbing at the restaurant in the city's south side and found a
What
victim with
city?
a
What
large
city?
American flagpole lodged in his head.
What city was this?
Oklahoma
Oh,
City.
oh God.
So he charged at the victim and stabbed him with the flagpole. And and the assailant said, "That's what he gets. He deserved it."
Well, I don't know if he deserved it, but this guy's pretty good with a fucking flagpole. I mean,
Entered his head beneath his jaw and exited the
oh
other side of
well,
his head near his
that's
right temple area.
this
It
guy's
was
got
still
fighting skills. That makes no
the flag was still attached to the pole. They had to
wow.
cut part of it off, part of the flagpole off, so that they could pull it out. The victim will survive.
Oh, he's gonna survive. Okay, all right.
Yeah. In the meantime, the assailant was arrested on charge of maiming. Maiming, is that it? After
Yeah.
a former conviction of a felony. So he might be going down for,
Well,
oh, no thanks.
well, Jesus Chucho Lopez Ortiz didn't survive. Costa Rican professional soccer player
Oh,
decided
yeah.
decided
Little
he,
swim.
yeah, he's like I just jump. He was excited. They won some game in their tournament and jumped into the Santa Cruz River there, where he immediately just devoured by a
Dumped.
crocodile, just
Dumped.
gone. Just like I think they probably wait for like dead animals to fall off trees and so I don't know, but they were on that motherfucker and he was devoured. And the coach said, despite how difficult it is for everyone to lose Chucho, we do have to continue on with this tournament. So the game's going on. Or the matches will go on, even though
Oh, well,
he
I
was
mean, and
devoured.
I sent you the article about yet again another shark attack
Oh
right in
well,
Rockaway Beach.
no first one in Rockaway in a long time. which is technically on Long Island. But this one was a 65-year-old woman. I did, this reported it took a 20-pound hunk of flesh out of her leg, her thigh. 20 pounds.
Ugh.
I mean, they basically took off the whole. It basically looks like a stripped chicken bone at that point. And 59th Street, which is kind of, it's a little hoodish over there. I don't know what was going on. I've been over near 59th Street in Rockaway, but usually I'm in the 30s, 70s, or around Surf Beach, around 190, around 98 near the Hamill projects. But yeah, I feel bad for her. But she's alive. She's stable. They've had to probably give her a shitload of blood. They airlifted her out, but the beaches were closed today. Nothing. No, I think 20 pounds. I'm thinking because the warm water temperatures, I'm thinking it's a bull shark. We will never know. They might be able to forensic, like get the tooth markings. They can figure a lot of that shit out. Could be a baby great white. The baby great whites hang out. Not the big ones, but they hang out.
Whatever it is, it's going to frickin' hurt.
Well, she's fucked. I mean, they saved her leg, but she's got this strange deformed bone left. Yeah, she's going to basically need a cane at least.
Well,
yes.
I don't, the summer is the time for many ridiculous stunts by both animal and men that act like animals. And this one comes from Texas. Yeah, road rage. I mean, I have to say, although I don't drive, I don't get it because I just accept the natural stupidity of most of the human race. I'm like, they're dumb. Let it go. But in Texas, road rage turned ugly. Harris County Constable Mark Herman said that just a few weeks ago, road rage incident turned very ugly when two guys got out of the car arguing, and one guy pulled up to the traffic light, right? And he gets out of his car with a can of spray paint and spray paints the other guy's face, who breaks the other guy's window, who then takes the spray can away and sprays. So they both ended up with spray paint on their face. Hello. I mean, and try to get that shit off.
Spray paint as an assault. I mean, I remember the opening scene in Death Wish 1. It was Jeff Goldblum's, I think it's his film premiere, but he plays some kind of fucked up criminal, and they end up raping Charles Bronson's fictitious wife in front of him. That's why he goes on a big vigilante rage afterwards. But that's what they did. They pulled her pants down. The first thing they did was spray paint her butt. And I don't know why, but I remember that scene. It stood out.
Well, it's kind of hard to believe that, asshole number 2 was only charged with criminal mischief and a felony, of course, and his bond was only set at $1,500. What do you got to do to, I mean, spray paint in a face? That's a pretty good trick.
So Texas, we're talking about Texas, and we're talking about
yeah, that's true. You can kill people in your front yard.
Dealing with the law. So Lawrence Maddle just got received. He was given a sentence of 180 days in jail, 15 months of probation, and then the final thing was he's never allowed to own a reptile ever again. And so,
what did he do?
Well, he won some big chunk of money in the lottery, which by the way, today's lottery is like 1.6 billion. It's so stupid. But anyhow, this guy won the first thing he did was run out and buy 2 African banded cobras, exotic.
Oh, wow!
And so 6 feet, like 6 feet, like sizable cobra, and they're very venomous. Well, he fed them like a rodent or some shit like that, and then he went to the other room, came back, and one of them was gone. And he admitted that he did not
secure the location.
Yeah, he didn't have, he didn't have a locking mechanism on the enclosure. The thing got out. So, next thing you know, you have this exotic Western African cobra around.
On the loose.
Yeah, and these things are very deadly. Well, he did the proper, he went through the proper procedure and contacted like wildlife
agency.
Yeah, and
wildlife rescue. Yeah.
But so the sentence happened because it's been 2 years.
Illegal.
It's been 2 years. And well, no. You in Texas, you can get exotic, deadly pets in a lot of these states. And he had all the licenses. He just was incompetent as fuck. And maybe dumb for even wanting to have such a thing. But the stake remains at large. It's been gone for 2 years, and it's somewhere. It's
Wow.
somewhere. I mean, Dave Budden, who's been on this show, he grew up in South Carolina. He told me his neighbor, some hick, thought it was a good idea to catch a water moccasin and try to domesticate that thing. And he would invited his friends over, check it out. We blah blah blah. He said basically he went there and there was basically an empty fish tank, and this water moccasin just slam, just nonstop slamming his head at the glass trying to attack them, and just wouldn't stop. It happened for about 2 weeks, and the guy's like, maybe I should just put it back in the swamp where I found it.
Well, there's one thing that can't be taken back, and this just in this day and age, this is kind of absolutely freaking unbelievable. So the Environmental Protection Agency, who are these criminals now? I mean, I thought they were supposed to be protecting us, the protection. They approved a component of boat fuel made from discarded plastics that the agency's own risk formula determined was so hazardous that everyone exposed to the substance continually over a lifetime would develop cancer. But current and former EPA scientists said that the threat level is, well, it is unheard of. It's 1,000,000 times higher than what the agency usually considers acceptable for new chemicals, and 6 times worse than the risk of lung cancer from a lifetime of smoking. But that's okay. They said that in this case, they decided its scientists were overstating the risk and gave Chevron, not exactly the corporation ever looking after our health, to go ahead to make the new boat fuel at its refinery in Pascagoula. Ghouls, they will all be Mississippi. And of course, the substance can poison the air, contaminate the water, but EPA officials, no doubt paid off, mandated no remedies other than requiring workers to wear gloves.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because
climate friendly. Oh yeah.
Well,
right.
no, it's because
ridiculous.
My brother works for the CDC. Basically all these institutions have been infiltrated by people who have interests in manipulating and corrupting these agencies. It's happened in the FBI, it's happened in the CIA, and obviously the EPA. It's been happening for a while. It hadn't happened historically with the CDC. My brother, his former boss, Tom Frieden, had resigned under Trump because, they would give him these stats and Trump would be like, I don't like these numbers. And he's like, well, I'm a scientist. I've been trained to be apolitical. I'm just giving you the fucking information. So, but the CDC historically was never infiltrated until they started treating gun violence as an epidemic. And then the gun lobbying kind of started infiltrating it. So all these institutions have been infiltrated by other forces with other motivations. So it's only makes sense.
Well, I mean, look, the Toxic Substance Control Act requires, the EPA to review every new chemical, no matter how similar it is to existing ones. But most petroleum-based fuels were never assessed under the law because existing chemicals were exempted from the review when it passed in 1976. And of course, people living near refineries have cancer. I'm going to have to look into how far up in the tens of thousands the no-go zone Superfund sites are in this country, because the last time I checked, I think it was 19,000, which means about every 50 miles there. Wonder why cancer's on the uprise.
Speaking of petroleum and plastics and all that stuff, did you ever see the movie Mannequin?
Of course I did.
Kim Cattrall. Anyhow, well, Susan Withers of CHIPS, a California Highway Patrol woman, she was kind of doing her little hanging out, checking out the traffic, when she said, something looked a little suspicious. Sure enough, she pulled over someone who had a mannequin in the passenger seat in order to go to the HOV lane, just to get through traffic. Now, this, she was saying, I'd never seen this before, but this has been going on for a while in New York, Long Island specifically. The mannequin with sunglasses and a wig and a baseball cap, just so you can go into the carpool lane. And it must work for a while. I don't know. I think a guy did this. For something tells me a woman didn't do this. I always have a hunch, but maybe it was a woman. I just have a hunch some dumb guy did this.
I'm back on the great garbage, the Great Ocean Garbage Dump. And I have to
Oh
say,
boy,
the
that thing.
people they're called the Ocean Cleanup, they're making pretty amazing strides in pulling a lot of crap
Right. I've heard
out
about
of the ocean. And the thing is, they said that most of the plastic that's in the ocean, they clean up hundreds of thousands of pounds just by scooping it out. Is that Guatemalan rivers is where, because there's no regulation, is where so much of the plastic comes from. And I just saw a little special on them. They're called the Ocean Cleanup. And, they're trying their best. Good luck. I mean, we've, ruined just about everything.
that.
So
Totally.
with that in mind.
Yes.
With that in mind, that's why we're chuckling all the way to the apocalypse, because we are the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and today we have Aaron Dilloway, who's trying to make sure our hearing goes into another realm that's never been achieved before by anyone other than his masterful noise-making hands. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch. As usual, Tim Dahl, or should I say as unusual, Tim Dahl.
Roar.
Hello, and our guest, Aaron Dilloway, previously of Wolf Eyes and many other horrifically outrageous noise productions, some quite beautiful, at least the covers are always beautiful. And we're here to explore what noise means to you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's not the only reason you're here, but that's a good starting point. What does noise mean to you? Do you like the term? Do you like the idiom noise?
I don't really care. It's easy.
Right. There you go. I mean, the thing is, I mean, you've been doing quote unquote this for a while. You know what you do, I view as kind of non-idiomatic, and it's just kind of whatever it is. I'm gonna be a little critical here about because I used to go to like Tokyo and see that terrifying noise shows like decades ago. And I don't want to sound like such a snob and an elitist, but doesn't it feel a little bit that the knob turning noise community is kind of starting to feel a little bit like a hippie drum circle, isn't it? Like anyone can kind of do it, which I kind of like that about it. But do you like it when it's a little more exclusive and maybe a little more alienating, or do you like it like everyone gather around?
Well, I got to cut into him because I'm just going to, excuse me, I have to say this. I saw your performance that was I didn't see it in person, but I saw it online, and I think it was part of the Iowa City Music Festival.
Oh, wow. I didn't
really,
know that was even filmed. Wow.
Really, I mean, I think maybe one of your most extreme performances. It really is like you're having, and I know you've had seizures before. It is like you're having an exorcismic seizure of the worst torture imaginable, and that is a high compliment.
Thank you.
So I guess that's like there's like 5 things to respond to now.
Yeah. Let's see. What should I what was first? I mean, I don't see the noise circle thing, drum circle too much. Not too much here.
Right.
But I mean, I'm for people trying shit.
I am too.
Doesn't mean I'm gonna like it, but
or anybody else is either, because let's face it, to some ears, noise is just noise, but to the finely tuned ear, there are many levels of where that noise is coming from. First of all, you can't often differentiate where the noise is coming from, which I find the most interesting part of it. Just speaking of doing shows with Tim and Matt recently, I can't tell where those sound, and it's not noise, it's something else, but I like it when I can't tell what's making those sounds. And that pretty much describes your entire career. It pretty much describes everything you've ever done.
Yeah. No, that's what I like too. I like things that I like sounds that confuse me.
It's interesting because most of society, there's so much man-made and natural noise all the time, and humans tend to filter it out just so they can get on with their day and focus on what they're fucking doing. And it's interesting for someone like yourself or any of us to basically appropriate or adopt these things that are bombarding us all day.
You seek out
hearing music, hearing music, abstraction, art, and using it. And of course, that's what you do. That's what I think a lot of us do. When was it in your life where you're like, that's the kind of music I'm going to start making?
Oh man. Well, I was in 4th grade. I was obsessed with music as a little kid. Had an older brother and sister that had like Kiss records and David Cassidy records and stuff.
And there is a reason to rebel against that crap, eventually.
Yeah. But yeah, I was in 4th grade. We got MTV, so I knew about Duran Duran, Gary Newman, stuff like that.
The new romantic British new wave.
Yeah. But I used to get Hit Parader and Circus magazine and stuff like that. I was into Def Leppard, Kiss, stuff like that. And then I remember hearing about punk music ever since I can remember.
When you were like in 6th grade.
I was younger. This is like I was just 6
because you were born in 70. You were born in 70.
Yeah.
You were a sperm the first time I picked up a guitar.
Yeah, I know.
No, but Lydia,
newbie.
because I was born in 75, and it's interesting what Aaron says, because I had an older sibling too. So if you have older siblings, that stuff is going to filter at a younger age if they're into music than say if you didn't.
But I got to say this, you did release your most recent record, which I think is fascinating because it's like the haunted house of Kathmandu on my birthday. Thank you very much. I know it wasn't a gift to me, but I was researching that and I'm like, cool. We'll talk about that in a minute. Go back to your rebellion against straight rock.
Oh, well, I thought punk music was, I had these pictures of like Rocky Horror Picture Show or something. I didn't know what it sounded like. And then at hockey practice, I played hockey from kindergarten to 6th grade. And 4th grade hockey practice, this kid Nels on my team brought in a tape of the Butthole Surfers. And
good start.
So the first punk song I ever heard was "The Shaw Sleeps in Lee Harvey's Grave," which I didn't know. My immediate.
Is that even punk? That's its own thing.
It's just chaos. So that's what
it was punk to you. I have to say, "Cherub" by the Butthole Surfers is one of my favorite songs ever, and it's in a Richard Kern film I was in. And every time I hear that song, I love it. But yeah,
we actually showed that on the side of a wall in a courtyard in Kathmandu when I was there.
You showed what?
We showed the Richard Kern film.
Well, thank you very much for exposing my real life pornography to the young and innocent of
Well, my friend Anil was like, I think we should turn this off because it was a thing where anyone looking out, we were just watching stuff on YouTube and blasting it on the wall. And
well, I mean, if there's
might get us arrested.
I mean, is Nepal
funny? It never got me arrested, but thank you very much for sharing the glory of my existence. I do appreciate that.
Best.
I mean, so is in Nepal? I don't. You go there. I mean, is it pretty strict with art censorship,
pornography?
There's not really pornography there, as far as I mean, the first time I went, I found a lot of. I mean, they're basically pornography. I don't know what they say, but it's all drawings. It's like really violent, gnarly sex drawings.
Why did you first go there, and when was that in Nepal?
I went there in 2004 when my ex, when we first got married, we went there, and she studies Nepali Sign Language.
First of all, how many sign languages are there? Because there's a bunch.
They're all like. There's a different one everywhere.
I mean, funny. I have never once.
There's two main ones.
Hang on, Tim. I've never seen an ad for Noise Musician Wanted nor Nepalese Sign Language interpreter wanted. You two must have been a great couple. Succeeded happily for a while.
It's all super cultural. So it's like Mom and Kathmandu is this because of, and I'm for the radio people, I'm holding my finger up to my nose. So it's because the mothers, most Hindu women have their noses pierced.
What does that mean in Miami?
Yeah.
Does that mean Big Daddy?
But
so first visit there, how long were you there for, and what were your impressions? You must have just been, it must be overwhelming. Beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was intense. It was incredible. I was there 8 months that first time.
The honeymoon was 8 months long.
Yeah. She was studying she was like writing her dissertation. So, yeah, it was.
What were your cost a month? About $200?
Oh, less than that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's gone up a lot. It's gone up a lot.
But
so you could release only like 200 noise CDs a month and make your rent.
Exactly. Yeah.
So since 2004, how often have you been going?
This was only my third time. I didn't go again until about 2015. John Weiss and I went just for like a 2-week trip. Because
what does that particularly call you back? Look, it's also foreign to us anyway, and there's so much to explore or investigate.
Mm-hmm.
But to go back 3 times to some, as opposed to, well, why didn't you go to Goa or someplace else? What made you go back again and again?
Well, really, my Erica's work is the reason I went the first and the last time.
Okay.
The second time, I loved it there the first time, so I always wanted to go back, and we found these really cheap tickets, so Weiss and I went over there for quick.
How long is the flight there?
Oh God,
Brutal.
it's brutal. Like 30 hours.
Oh yeah.
What's a typical route?
Bangkok. Yeah, like
and from where you fly from Cleveland to
now it's Cleveland, but they would have been Detroit the first time. But yeah, Detroit to New York to Bangkok, or maybe
Endless,
it was
30 hours.
I don't know.
Yeah. Let's start at the present and go multiply backwards.
Okay.
So I think it's your latest, which is the Kathmandu Horror House soundtrack, which I found very intriguing, because I find a lot of what you do basically horror music. And I know, in investigating you, I know that horror movies, especially bad ones, really infected your youth.
And sure.
Why has anybody ever approached you to do sound for a horror film? Or
I'm working on one right now, actually.
I pulled that out of your head, actually.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell.
Well, it's more of a surrealist film. It's by this kid, Casey Sparrows. And it stars Gary Wilson.
Oh yes.
I
was on a show with Jan Terry and him, double bill. But
oh my God, that's an intense gig.
Yes.
Who is Gary Wilson?
You can describe him.
He put out this really strange record in the late 70s, self-released record, and he's just this kind of oddball
cult following. People love
figure,
it.
Yeah.
So is he a musician, an actor, just a loved weirdo?
Loved weirdo for
songwriter,
sure.
performer, character, arranger.
Yeah.
So
popular music gone wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems natural to me, although I'm completely supernatural or unnatural by most standards, that you should be summoned to do music because music can be the most terrifying element in a horror film.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It should be.
Yeah. We always paid attention. I remember, watching the Italian movies, and we would always get excited when it said music by the Goblins or Goblin.
Right. Goblin.
We knew it was going to have, but it's fun. Yeah. Some of them will say the Goblins, which I always thought was funny.
Okay.
But yeah, as I got older and I'm like, oh, this Goblin has records out. When I found out about soundtrack records, I remember asking my teacher in elementary school, we watched like a film strip, like a science film strip that had a synth soundtrack. And I was like, are there records of music like this? And she's just like, I don't know.
Well, look, if going back to the 70s, either whether we're talking porn or horror, the soundtracks were pretty freaking abysmal. They did not add as much as they could have to the film. I always found it highly annoying myself, but But then I heard you, and I'm like, I don't even need to see the movie anymore. I'm already in the fucking terror zone.
Wow. Nice compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, don't get too excited, honey.
So so you live in Oberlin now. Lydia and I were just there, but you were in Nepal. You're in Nepal.
I was so bummed. I was pissed.
We'll be back.
Good.
But you have a record store there. When did the record store start?
Oh gosh, about 2013. So almost about 10 years ago.
I mean that's a bold year to start a record store, but it seems like it's there and it's working.
Yeah.
Does it only stock your records? Because there's enough of them to actually fill a record store. I mean, when I went back to look at the amount of stuff put out by Wolf Eyes, I was just like, was this one a month? And by the way, the artwork for that stuff was so fantastic. And there was actually one video that I watched that I thought was so beautiful. And it was I spend too much time outside.
I spend too much. Oh, that's after I left.
That's after he left.
Well,
is that the one with the alien?
Yeah, I'm giving a shout out because it was really beautiful.
Oh,
anyway.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So what year did you leave?
I left in 2004 when I went to Nepal. We did a tour opening for Sonic Youth that was supposed to be fucking Lollapalooza, which would have been insane, but it got canceled that year because they put us on the bill. So.
You might have been bottled off, the fucking boring ass mainstream stage at Lollapalooza anyway.
Yeah.
But by the way, have you had any like audience interference because they just can't take it anymore? Like when you're going full throttle noise torture.
When I was in Wolf Eyes and we opened for the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, their fans really hated us.
Honey, that should have been a no. That was a really dumb move. Like you're expecting their fans to be alt.
But
no.
But
Nick
like
Zenner's great. I'll say Nick's very cool.
Yeah.
He is alt.
Yeah.
The bands like that have it's so weird when the fan base is singularly loyal to the band and there's a whole ritual of like booing the opening act and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, really, all I can compare it to, Aaron, is when Suicide opened for the Cars. I mean, didn't you know that was an experience? I mean, that's kind of what you set yourself up for.
That happened to them for the Cars. I think it also happened to them with the Clash as well. I think
is that the one where the axe got thrown at him on stage?
Yes.
I was we were in a circle at one of the trip metal festivals in Detroit, and Martin Rev was playing, and he is like just a total alien. We were all kind of afraid of him. And
he's sweet.
Nicest guy on the planet.
He's nice.
I know, but Drew McDowell.
I'm afraid of his music when he does disco.
I like it.
I love it. But Drew McDowell was there, and he was at that gig where they threw the axe. And he started telling us the story of it, and Martin like overheard and just like pulled his glasses off and was like, "You were at that gig?" It was like he became human all of a sudden. It was great.
Oh,
but his set was insane that night too.
Oh, I can. Well, I've
seen it. Top cut ups.
Oh yes.
I want to go back. I want to go back to. I want to go back to because we're going all over the place because that's what we do. We're like kaleidoscopic psychonauts. You're into rock because you're just a kid. You're also into horror because you're just a kid. And when did you decide, as opposed to you're going to have one more unnecessary garage-based subsonic youth bullshit band and say, you know what, going in the other direction?
Well, let's see. I eventually got a tape of that. It was like a couple of years later in 6th grade. This girl, Alyssa, whose older sister was a punker, gave me my first punk tape, and it had that Surfers record, it had the Circle Jerks, it had Misfits. And I grew up in a kind of small town outside Ann Arbor called Brighton, Michigan. You couldn't really get this stuff. It was always
hand to hand.
Like 10th generation dubs of these tapes. And I think it was I was always searching for crazier punk music, because when I got into, the first thing I heard was the Surfers. So I was always searching for that. When I heard the Pistols, it was like normal rock,
My feelings exactly. Hello. Yeah.
I'm going, we were, eventually I heard like, Laughing Hyenas. They were like our hometown band.
I love them.
Oh, they were fucking incredible. And we went to go see them. I was in about 10th grade, and this band opened up for them. It was in a basement in Ann Arbor, and this band called Couch opened for them. And they were like the most extreme thing I'd seen up to that point. And that just changed everything. My buddy and I were in a band playing kind of, grunge rock. And we saw them and we were like, fuck it, we're never playing chords again. We started a new band.
So that brings me to what was your first instrument then, if you're in a grunge rock band?
My first instrument was a guitar, but I played drums in this grunge band, but I wrote all the songs. All the guitar parts.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
I love the drums. I love the drums. And the guitar when abused correctly.
Of course.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd heard like Pussy Galore. I was into Pussy Galore. I was into stuff like that, but I was always looking for something noisier and noisier and noisier. And after hearing Couch, they were like a local Ann Arbor band, which had this.
What was their instrumentation? Was
it was two guitars, and they did have drums, but I swear it was just like bongos or something. And they had Jim Magus had a guitar. But
one of those horrible things.
Yeah. About a month later, and they were all like 10 years older than us. They were like these freaky guys in suits. And about a month later, I saw they had a record out. I was in School Kids Records, and I was like, how can this band have a record out? And so I bought that, and then just kept going back. I was like, what else? I asked the guy, this guy Jeff Walker had a noise rock band called Gravatar. I don't know if either of you remember them.
Gravatar.
Yeah, they were on Charnel House, that label. But I asked him what was like this, and what else was like Couch, and he directed me towards the first Caroliner record.
Okay.
And the first Naked City CD.
Okay.
So I bought those, and I love the Naked City CD, but it was a little too tight for me. Like the Caroliner record really spoke to me,
because Naked City was like professional musicians.
Yeah.
And Carolina, well, there have been professional musicians who filtered
for sure
there, but yes, it's a different
okay
thing.
So you realize the drums and the guitar maybe aren't cutting it, or do you decide tape? How then did you get into like tapes, recording, field recordings? How did you get into loops and stuff like that then? What was the first method that you started to employ, going, all right, that other crap is not doing it for me?
Well, I heard we were on tour with the Scissor Girls, and Azita put on the first Cabaret Voltaire record, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And so that got me interested in tape loops. And then I was trying to make them, but with cassettes, and it was super hard. And then a friend of mine we were kind of obsessed with 8-tracks because they were just such a stupid format, and we thought they were funny. So he found an 8-track player that recorded, and
Genius.
So he gave me
those
that.
Those must go for like $3 now.
Exactly.
Or 3,000.
Yeah. Who knows now?
They're up to about 30 now.
Yeah.
But I got obsessed with Mick Jagger's soundtrack to that Kenneth Anger film, Invocation of My Demon Brother.
Yeah, what year was that?
Maybe 69.
Okay.
By the way, I'm obsessed with, and if you haven't heard it, I beg everyone to go right now. It's both called Schoolboy Blues or Cocksucker Blues, and it's a song they put out a single to get off a contract with Decca, and it is the raunchiest, best Mick Jagger vocal, and it is about sucking cock. I'm just saying. It's the best song they ever did, and they did get thrown off the contract. Go ahead.
Oh, good. But yeah, he did this Moog soundtrack, and it was done with the modular, though. He was getting all these crazy really crude kind of loops, and he's barely doing anything to it. It's barely moving, and then it just goes to straight white noise. And I had recently found an old Moog synth, Moog Rogue at a pawn shop back when you could find them for, I got it for $100. And
Which even back in the day, that's still a lot of money, though.
Yeah,
for a teenager.
Yeah, for sure. And so
I'm not going to ask you if you had Cocksucker Blues to get that thing, honey. You can just keep that to yourself.
I had the movie. I had a dub of the movie.
You know what I'm talking about. I knew.
I know. But I couldn't get those kind of loop sounds out of it. So I put two and two together. I was like, I can record these synth sounds onto these 8-track tapes, and I can make these kind of loops, and then I add some delays. I can give them movement. And then I got really into, they were really crude. So as I started getting better at splicing, I started being like, oh, it sounds too good. So I was like, splicing
Can you
them.
tell me can you tell me when it sounded too good? I'd love to know what you think sounded too good. Actually, and also what you think sounded the most obtuse.
Well, I love rhythms, but I like it to be a little more human. So like
asymmetrical. You don't want quantized metric.
Exactly. Yeah, like just total perfect drum machine stuff. That's what I like about the 8 tracks and the kind of crude loops. It's always getting a little stuck in there. It's always
lopsided.
Tape is stretching. Tape is never perfect.
Well, yeah, with all that stuff, the computer too, to make it sound human. I mean, it's easy to make it sound like a machine. To make it sound human is the challenge. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, even like Prince or something, it would be super refined, like his early 80s drum machine shit. He would spend just so much time it would be these slight variations that the average listener would not even suspect.
Tim, that's a very good, it brings me to a very good question. Yeah. Is there such a thing as being a perfectionist in noise music?
I would say yes.
I comb over stuff. Like I'll release things here and there, quite often, as you know, but when I'm working on a record, I'll dissect like every little second of it.
Yes, if you have an aesthetic, or as Dolly Parton says, it takes a lot of time and money to look this cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Good one. How do you know, with the expansion of what noise possibly is, that you're not repeating what you've already done? I mean, especially when you're so prolific, it's like, or does it even freaking matter? Is it more of, in this moment, in this essence, I need this exorcism of sound right now, love it or loathe it, what the fuck ever?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. It's like, I'm always working with the room. I can't, it depends on the sound system I'm playing through at a gig, what direction a show will go. And
do you get a lot of live shows at this point?
Yeah, I play
regularly. How? Where? You probably get more than we do.
You're on the cover of Wire. Well, both of you were. I've never.
That didn't do anything for my career, honey. It's the same level as always been.
But it's a saturated market out there, quote unquote, in a very small island. It's not a huge audience for this, but you stand out. You think that's obviously you're good at what you do, but
do you do your own booking? Is the other question.
I do most of it. I have a friend who helps me with more like college, the occasional college or festival gig. But
do you ever do workshops in noise music?
Yeah, I did a tape loop workshop at the Wave Farm in upstate New York, and I did one in Kathmandu too.
Okay.
I've done a couple.
I bet that went far in the cultural society. Now everybody's doing it. It's got to be true. So I'm just to pump and pimp one of your last things. I mean, the recording that was released on June 2nd of this year, which is the sounds from the haunted house in Kathmandu. I mean, I call it the kind of music you don't want to hear before you go into the basement, unless you're me. Then that's what I want to hear before I go into the basement. Yeah. Because I'm a creep. Fucking And you're such a nice guy, but there's something certainly freaking creepy about you, Aaron. Let's face it. You hide it well. And where does it come out? In the exorcism of your psychotic musical, I don't even know what to call it, torture, ear porn. That's what you do. We can't help it. It's what we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sorry, go on.
No. I'm just.
Go ahead. No, Aaron, go ahead.
Speak about what you want to say.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, I mean, I did that. I collect sound effects records and documentary records. And, the first time I went to Nepal, I befriended these snake charmers and spent they were Indian, but they were traveling through, and I spent about a month just hanging out with them and recording them, videotaping them. And it just everywhere in Nepal, it sounds incredible. There's just always a crazy sound happening somewhere. And this time I was like, I've never been to the Kathmandu Fun Park. It's like the amusement park there. And I went and saw that it had a haunted house, and I was like, oh shit, I'm hitting record as soon as I walk in here.
And every culture in terms of what is scary, it varies quite a bit. I know, like the West, and particularly America, is all about the surprise, like around the corner. Where I've been to haunted houses in Japan, and there's just like a woman with long hair slowly just
a ringu,
and everyone's like, I'm like, that's not
but look, I suggest, if you haven't been there, because it seems right up your alleyway, the Halloween anti-abortion haunted houses that they have. Could be next on your
photos.
list.
Yeah.
Where are those?
That
in the
would
South,
be
I assume.
Of course they're in the South.
But so tell us about a Nepalese haunted house. Tell us.
I mean, it was so crude. It most of it was just black, like you're just walking through a pitch black maze, bumping into dusty walls.
And hearing that horrific sound.
Hearing those, this just like very crudely put together sound collage that's, it's taken stuff from the Disney haunted house record. It's but you'd go around a corner, it had these motion sensors. So you'd go around a corner and this thing would pop out that just looked like a gnarly survival research laboratories creation that they dumped in the garbage. It's just covered in rust, and it's got
spunk and dust and bleh.
Gnarly rubber mask on it. And I went through it probably about 5 or 6 times.
Of course you did.
There. And the one time I didn't record, these kids were just like beating the shit out of one of the dummies that pops out. Okay. And they're just like, they're doing like kicks at it and just slamming its head.
How old are the kids?
Probably like 12, 13.
Okay.
Of course they were. That's when they're the most violent. Any recent horror films that you're like, oh yeah, or recent horror soundtracks? Or do you find like, I'm not that big. I'm more into forensics, but because horror doesn't scare me, it's like, come on, give me a real scare here. But are there any recent horror films that you're like, yeah?
Not really.
Exactly.
I mean, my friend Lucrecia Adult that I made a record with, she just did the soundtrack for I think it's an HBO miniseries called The Baby, and I think she did an amazing job on that. But as far as like new horror movies, I don't know.
It's just but again, I think the sound is so important, and I think it might have been the guy that the only horror franchise I really like is Saw. And I like almost all of them until the recent one, because I like all the appliances. I like the rust. I like the concept. And I think it was James Wan. Is that his name? I think one of his last films, I can't remember the title, had an absolutely terrifying soundtrack. But that was the only thing that was scary about it, was the soundtrack.
Well, the thing is, I never go to the movie theater anymore. And I think a lot of
I'm talking about in my bed.
But if you're talking about sound, I mean, the movie theaters, their sound systems are so insane. So that'll be a lot more impactful than seeing on the fucking airplane where it's like, Jesus, this is stupid. But
well, I doubt it, because I just can't stand the thought of sitting next to him any more than I have to. I'm dozens and dozens of people at it'd have to be an IMAX. I wouldn't mind hearing the bomb explode in Oppenheimer, and to see Cillian Murphy, who has lost about 40 pounds, to play the master of the bomb. I just don't think I'll do it. Although I hear it's very, very good. I just can't see myself, even though it's playing around 3 blocks from my house. I just don't see my. So what's going on now in Oberlin? Do you like living there? I mean, that's kind of. I mean, are you at the record store that you own or not? Do you go there? Do you work there?
Yeah. I have a partner, Robert Turman, who helps me run it, and he was the original second member of Non.
Yep.
Back in the late 70s. But yeah, we do the shop. I like it. I grew up in a farm town and then moved to Ann Arbor for 10 years. It's kind of a mixture of the two.
So college towns are kind of like your comfort place. Did you ever live in like a giant metropolis?
Oh, I tried to move in 1997. I moved to Chicago to join the Flying Lutenbachers.
Oh, okay. All right.
Played what? What were you going to play?
I was going to play drums.
But you didn't.
I did 2 shows with him.
So Weasel's tried many times not to be the drummer, and he has.
That's what he said. Yeah,
and he has been not the drummer before. In fact, the last time I played with Ludenbachers, he was one of the guitar players. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it was like February. I was living in Weasel's attic in a house that had no heat, and it was just a nightmare. I like left my girlfriend at the time to go join this band, and it was just a nightmare.
So how many months did you make it? A year?
Oh God, no. It was like 3 months top, maybe even only 2.
Because no heat in the attic, but was anything even happening with the music at that time?
We did
endless rehearsals.
Yeah, it was rehearsals, and we did 2 shows. There's one on YouTube too. I come in like halfway through the show, Weasel switches to sax, and I come out.
Well, yeah. Also, that was right before Weasel moved to the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of done with Chicago at that point in his life. So it's an interesting time. I mean, and then then you're like, I'm done with this. It's based on what he's told me. It probably wasn't the best neighborhood either, right?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Most of the time I ended up like crashing at my friend Twig's house because he had heat.
Oh, okay. Well, that's reasonable. And also,
go ahead, Tim.
Not the quote unquote not the best neighborhood in Chicago is a different level. Than a lot of cities.
Yeah. I don't remember it being too intense, but I was maybe too young to realize the danger around me.
So who does the artwork for your records, and who is doing, I mean, a lot of the Wolf Eyes had a very similar aesthetic. I don't know if that was after you left or while you were also in it, but it's really incredible artwork. And now, do you do the artwork for your releases? Do you pull other people in? How does that happen?
I do them for my own releases. Most of that Wolf Eyes artwork was done by John Olson, who's in Zane Johnny.
Yeah, we interviewed him about a year or so ago. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And he would do that. We had a good routine between the 3 of us, where John records everything and he releases everything almost.
like the Weasel Walter.
Yeah. So like the releases with that he would put out would be more like and more kind of like sketchbooks, and then I would release the stuff that we kind of like dissected a bit more and spent a little more time on. And I think it helped. I don't know. It was good. Good combo.
Were you on the Oops tour?
Yeah.
How was that experience for you?
Oh, what was that experience, first of all?
Oops tour, it was kind of like a skin graft kind of world. I mean, because they weren't. It was like Load Records. It was like that whole world. They try to do their Lollapalooza.
Yeah, it was basically like a noise rock.
Yeah, noise rock. But it's kind of like when Brutal Prog, Noise. It was all that stuff. So
what year was that?
late 98. No,
it wasn't that early.
No,
maybe
it was
2002 or something.
It was after 9/11.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
well,
I feel like it was before, but I could be wrong. But it was like Locust would be involved, and Ludenbachers,
Lightning Bolt,
Lightning Bolt. There's a few. Was Arab on Radar on part of that as well?
Yeah.
I don't know. There was some. I think one of Dwyer's bands was on part of it too.
Oh yeah, Pink and Brown.
Yeah.
What a terrible name for a band.
Well, I think that was the intention.
Those gigs were crazy. Those were some of the most, because we were used to playing, dive bars in Detroit, or maybe an art gallery in Detroit. But yeah, those gigs were like hundreds of kids.
Yeah,
we're going to those shows.
A thing. There was a momentum for a second with that.
Yeah.
So Ohio versus Michigan. Do you feel more comfortable in Ohio?
Oh no, Michigan for sure. Michigan forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michigan forever.
Yeah. I mean, I love it here, but I'm close enough to Michigan. But that's where I feel most at home, I think, when I'm like going out to gigs and stuff.
So are you the Pied Piper for the students interested in kind of alternative music? When, as a record store owner in a college town, do you kind of guide kids, or do you just kind of, just by presenting what you present, that does the work for itself?
I mean, a lot of these kids know a lot of shit,
right,
and there's the electronic music program here at the college too. Sure. So, kids come in, knowing a lot of crazy music.
I've been dying to ask you this. So, seeing you, which nobody else can on this podcast, you've got like a photo behind you of a hot, shirtless, long-haired dude. Who the hell and what is it? I mean, I can't really.
It's Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah, you can't. No,
to your left.
It's not big enough.
I'm looking at it's Bon Scott.
Oh, hilarious!
It's larger than life Bon Scott poster my friend made.
But Lydia likes the street criminal scum.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was thinking it looked from here because it's not that big. It kind of looks like Rick Springfield, but I'm like, either way.
I mean, but Bon Scott was like 10 years older than the rest of the guys, right, or something like that. He was
he?
I think he was a lot older. I think he was friends with the young older brother, Angus and Malcolm's older brother.
So I just have to ask exactly why is that behind you, and do you look at it every single day? That could have been me. It could have been me.
Oh, did you freeze?
Wait, shit! I froze him out.
Yeah. That's stunned him. That question. Dilloway. Oh yeah, you're back. Hold on, it's chopping up.
Internet. Okay.
There you go. Hold on. Right now it's
internet connection is unstable.
You're back.
Look, whatever you did in those few seconds of loss, I understand. Sometimes it only takes me a few seconds to go into another dimension.
He intentionally froze it, and then kind of like a weird psychopath. He's like, "It's okay, Bon. Yeah, they're talking about you, but we'll make it up later." Like, you have a whole relationship with the poster.
No, I fucking love early AC/DC. I love.
And do you hate Brian Johnson?
Oh, I don't hate him, but I can't deal with too much after his first couple.
Do you ever listen to music now? And if so, what kind? I mean, you're in a record store. Do you have to play music all day long?
Oh yeah, I listen to I listen to everything. Sure. I like a lot of kind of schmaltzy, easy listening. I collect novelty records, like the stupidest records I can find.
Sure.
Silent records.
Well,
my favorite kind of music often is the silent zone.
Marcel records, stuff like that.
I mean, you like the kind of for like 1950s and 60s audiophiles, like a train going by, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite sounds in the world is a train horn going by. I mean, that just puts you. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's just like that's the sound of freedom. Maybe my internal hobo. I'm not sure. I love that sound.
I stumbled across. I got for free one of these audiophile things of like Central Park from like the 1950s. I got a lot of money for that fucking thing.
Oh yeah, I bet. Was it the Folkways one? But that what's his name recorded.
I think it was that one, whatever the desired one was. I was like, what's this? And people were like, you have that? I mean, it wasn't like I made a fortune, but I definitely got over $100 fucking bucks for this thing for just finding it.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, seriously. So, I mean,
go ahead, Tim.
I mean, Foley artists, I mean, the word is with those guys, that's kind of a mafia. You can't just like go in, like in Hollywood, you can't just go into it. That's been passed on from generation to generation.
Can't frolic with your Foley. I mean, you got to be in. You got to be in with someone.
Yeah, that's. I don't think I could do that. That's too structured to be like.
Okay.
I don't know. That would be. Yeah. No.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm kind of doing it right now. I've been doing the sound for these little short animations for my friend Peter Schoolworth, and our friend Phil, who does the animations. But those are like, it's really fucked up. It's like not. It's
and that's creative. That's not a structure. Do this to that. I mean,
yeah.
Supposedly in all the Beneath the Valley, the Ultra Vixens penetration scenes, Russ Meyer, he was his own Foley artist, and he was recording his own farts over every time that was happening. It was a real Russ Meyer shit. Yes, gross, vulgar but true. I had to bring it up. It was vulgar but true. You consider yourself an archivist?
Do I?
Yeah.
More of a pack rat.
I know. I mean,
I'm not organized enough to be an archivist.
Well, with all seriousness, I know Tom Smith told his partner Claudia when he was dying, and he had all those hard drives. He told her, "Give it to Dillow."
Yeah.
So he trusted you with all his stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've sifted through all of it, but I'm sure there's some hidden gems in there.
There's some crazy shit in there. Yeah. I haven't gotten all of it. I got a lot of Peach Dats and some more recent stuff, but yeah, that was intense. That meant a lot. Sure.
Well, I mean, it had to go into someone's hands that would handle it properly. So that meant a lot in that moment. It was intense and quick and sad.
Yeah, it was.
You get itchy if you don't get live shows. Like you sometimes just sit there, I need some live shows. Like I need some now.
I do, but they take a lot out of me. I was just in Texas. I did 3 shows there. I just was in New York. I did 2 shows there. Actually got back. Unfortunately, I missed Tim's show with Mark last night, so we had left.
Oh, you're all right. You had just left.
Yeah, we left that morning.
Well, the thing is that show,
Mark Morgan and Richard Edson. How'd that go?
Yeah.
I had a fucking blast. Those playing. I've known Mark forever, but I'd never played with him, and so that was, we kind of know each other's playing, so we could just do it. And Edson kind of just got it, so we made it happen. Yeah.
Where'd you play in Texas?
I played 2 shows in Austin and 1 in Denton.
I'll be going there in September with Kevin Shea on drums, a duet.
Oh, nice.
Denton, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio.
Rubber gloves. Yeah,
exactly.
Of course, got to go to Rubber Gloves.
Great.
Yeah. It's amazing when those places exist. And, hopefully it can last for a while, but just knowing how this works, they usually don't. So milk it while it exists, at least whoever's curating. Well, we know some of them, Rick I.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, of course, we are, not only do we torture others with our music, but we torture ourselves by going to Texas in August and September.
Yeah.
But I'll also be in New Mexico and Florida because I guess I'm just like the torture queen.
Yes.
What the hell? Hi ho. I do not know. It's just the way it is.
So in terms of performing, so what years did you perform the most? And how many shows were you doing a year?
Wolf Eyes years for sure. I mean, that's part of the reason why I left the band was because they toured so much, and I like being at home. I mean, I'm so unorganized that I need long stretches of time to get things done, where I'm not, unpacking my studio and taking it on the road. And as soon as I get back, with Wolf Eyes, it was like as soon as I got back in the swing of things at home, it was time to leave again.
Yep.
And so nowadays, and especially because I have kids, it's kind of like more like long weekends here and there. And it was right before I went to Nepal this last time was the first kind of tour I did as that was at least in the States in
How many shows was
10
that?
years or something. It's like 8 shows.
I mean, I prefer like 4, 6 shows, 2 weeks. And usually if it's 2 weeks, like with different things, I get it.
But I loved it. It was, I played I played a huge fucking dance club in New York. I played a old funeral parlor in Philly. I played a barn in Maine.
Oh wait, you played you played at Mecca in Philly, the Mausoleum of Contemporary Art?
No, it's
Oh, that's also there.
I played at Heaven's Gate in Philly, which is
I'm glad to know about it.
Yeah, my friend Rachel Slur, it's her house.
So basically, you had a club dance show, you had a barn dance show, and you had a dead dance show. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Dead amazing. Can't Dance show. How was the funeral house? I mean, I'm very interested in this.
Oh, that was fucking crazy.
So is that like a funeral parlor or a house party?
It was, yeah. You walk in, she lives on the 2nd and 3rd floor.
She a mortician?
No, she's
too bad.
But and then the basement, well, you walk in and there's her friend actually gave her a full modern coffin. So when you walk in there, there's this coffin right there. And then you go down and it's just a really gnarly basement.
Ooh, I love Philly. Basements, attics and basements. All right, I'll get back to you on that. I might need to know more about that trip.
What's your next performance and where is it?
Let's see. Play in Montreal on the 19th.
Oh, of this month.
Of this month, yeah.
Is it a festival or are you just doing a one-off?
It's a festival, yeah.
What's the festival called?
Shit, I can't.
I'll just let us know. It doesn't matter.
I'll let you know. But that and then play in LA for the first time in about 9 years.
Zebulon,
yeah.
When's that?
That is September 14th.
What are you just going out?
Such a great place to play. Such a great place.
Really, it was just really
yeah.
Well, they did it right, and LA. It's funny because there's crowds go out there because always in LA it's like people actually were hungry for it. There just wasn't a fucking spot for.
I'd love to do my Sunday salons at Zebulon.
I mean, it's
very cool,
and they're doing well. Is that part of just a one-off, or is that part of a showcase show, or
just a one-off? I'm gonna go out a little early and hang out with some friends.
Sure.
Did
you go to the Museum of Death or the Museum of Jurassic Technology or the racetrack or not the beach?
Did you instigate that, or did they come to you?
No, it's Tim at Upend was hitting me up for the past quite a few years.
Okay.
And the timing. I'm such a scatterbrain. If someone can ask me to play a gig 1 hour of the day, and I'll be like, there's too much going on, and then maybe later on in the day I'll be like, oh yeah, I can totally do that.
I want to know more about this Mission Creek Festival, which I brought up earlier in Iowa City.
Oh yeah.
That seems really wild. I mean, your performance there, I guess, was pretty wild from what I saw. And it just seems like a very strange. I don't think I've never been to Iowa City.
Yeah, me either. And it was nuts because I guess what's his name? Gene Wilder went to college there. And so
I didn't know that.
My fucking hotel room they put me up in had an Oompa Loompa head above the bed. It was great.
So were you in the Gene Wilder room, or is it the whole hotel was a Gene Wilder?
I think the whole hotel maybe.
I need the context. I think
different. Well, I'm not sure that the guy that brought me there. He's this guy who does his own festival called Feed Me Weird Things.
Nice.
I'm not sure he's involved in. I think that might have been his last time doing something for Mission Creek.
Understandable. Don't you love
probably
going to
how
places?
I got snuck in there?
Don't you love going to places you've never been before? I do. I love going to places I've never been.
Yeah,
absolutely, because you've never been there before.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go see what's going on.
Oh yeah. I'll send you his contact.
I can't wait. I know because definitely cool. I mean, it's just got to be done. I say Iowa City. Here we go.
That was the thing. That was the thing Wolf Eyes did when we toured. We would, we'd play these little, you'd hit New York, but you always still gotta play the weird little small towns.
And there's a new batch popping up post pandemic. A lot of people left cities and they're making things happen. And I mean, Child Abuse played Muskegon, Michigan, and
Wow.
I was like, what? And everyone's like, what?
I've never played Muskegon.
Yeah, exactly. But there's people who've left Chicago, New York, and they're like, you know what? I bought a house.
Look, there are weirdos, individuals, and hungry people for alternative everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere.
Well, the thing about
they're out there, even if it's a small coven of them, they're out there. And as door to door, or should I say city to city salespeople, it's what we do. We're show folk. We got to go hit the road.
But the thing about
I'm
Muskegon
a road dog. Tim's a road dog. Yes. We're road dogs.
Muskegon there was in the audience, it was no one between the age of like 25 and 45, because there just isn't a whole lot of work there. So it was like older people that established themselves, and then there's like kids.
Well, man, I know you had Victoria Shen on.
Yes, we did
recently.
Yeah.
It was like the first gig I went to, in kind of middle of the pandemic. She was playing Cleveland. She was on tour with this band Machine Girl, who I didn't know anything about him. I was like, I don't know if I'm up for going to a gig yet. I'll come check out your sound check. And I'm hanging out with her. We're chatting, and I'm watching this line form for the show, and everyone in the line it's like age 14 to like 20 maybe. And I'm like, what I'm like, all right, I'm gonna stay for this,
because that is the age that you may be younger, but it is an important age to find something that speaks to you in all of your strangeness, weirdness, non-conformist, non-mainstream, being. It's so important. I always love it when people say they found my music when they were 14. I'm like, I hope it did you well, honey. As I know it did, because it opens other things.
Yeah.
How was that show?
It was fucking incredible. It was like, it ended up being sold out. And so for a lot of these kids, it was probably the first gig they ever went to.
Right.
Because they were 12 when the pandemic started. Right. And now they're getting dropped off at the bowling alley to go to the, it was at May Halls in Cleveland. And so their first show was seeing Victoria, like, freaking out. It was incredible.
So what about for you? Because when I toured with Lydia, I mean that's what we're all surprised about, are kids that discovered your music or any of our music, but they couldn't. They're kids and they're in their bedroom
at any time. I'm surprised anybody's ever there. I'm always shocked. I'm like, wow.
Once they're over 18 or 21, depending on what the club rules are, suddenly they're like, I've been waiting 10 years to see you. I mean, do you ever get any of that where some kids like, I've been waiting forever? And
yeah. There was a kid that was at one of the Texas shows that like flew out from Georgia.
Amazing. Cool.
And that was pretty intense.
That's flattering.
I like in Czech when parents bring their kids and then they all stand there looking at every word you're saying. I just find it so incredibly fascinating. It's like, all right. Or my dad turned me on to you. Must be a weirdo.
Well, my daughter saw me play. She came to the Union Pool show the other day.
How old was she when she saw that?
This was just a couple days ago. She was 12.
What'd she think?
My friend Adrian just watched her the entire time because she just tapped my son. My son's 16. He's a total noise head. She was just tapping him, going like, just pointing at me, going, like,
well, it's interesting that your 16-year-old is a noise head, because often, kids rebel usually against their parents. It's a good thing he's not like into Perry Como or Tony Bennett.
It's not a Michael J. Fox on the
no. Well,
Alex P. Keaton, that was his.
Yeah. I thought you were about to say it's good that he's not into Michael Bolton.
Do that.
It's good that
you'd have to drop him off at the orphanage. It's like, all right, I don't want this kid anymore. It's not mine. Whose kid is this?
Turns out Michael Bolton and John Bolton are related. I know they're not. I'm joking. They might be actually, but
I'd like to put a bolt in both of their freaking heads, actually. But anyway, that's just me.
Correct.
No biggie.
Yeah. And any transcontinental things on the horizon that you're kind of working towards? Are you going back?
I might go do something in France in a few months or early next year.
Okay.
You should check out my schedule that I do with Mark Hurtado for my suicide tribute stuff, because if they're having us, they might have you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
That's one of the most fun things I do. But I mean, Mark Hurtado books most of those shows, and especially in France. You might want to just check that schedule of where we've been.
Yeah. Where are you doing that again soon?
I'm doing that at the in November.
Oh, nice.
A couple of shows in the UK and in Germany, and then some film festivals in Bologna and Turin with my documentary Artist Depression, Anxiety, and Rage. So fun.
Nice.
So
does his brother still do stuff?
No, he's a monster.
Oh,
we don't talk about him.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
So, Aaron, besides all this music and this record store, like, what do you like to do outside of this world you've decided to just totally engulf yourself in?
I mean, that's about it, man. I mean, I'm pretty. No,
must be exhausted after working 8 hours a day.
I live across.
Nobody should do that.
I live across the street from a cemetery. I walk my Chihuahua in that every day. Check out the frogs. There's a frog pond in there.
Does the Chihuahua try to attack the frogs?
No, they're back in the water as soon as you get 5 feet away from them.
They stop.
Yeah, they go
jump
in.
What's your favorite animal sound?
Oh man, what is? I mean, frogs are pretty fucking great.
There's a lot of variation there.
What about a peacock? Those are terrifying.
Are peacock? What are the birds that do the crazy clacking?
Oh, peacocks scream.
Oh, okay. No, there's the pelicans that do the.
Oh yeah.
They like move their heads back.
I would say my favorite sound is a hyena ripping somebody's head off, but that's ridiculous. I've never heard that. That's just that's
well, hyenas are laughing when they're doing all that shit.
So would I be, but it depends on whose head, I guess. Put it on the chopping block.
Chris Watson might have gotten a recording of that at some point. He would do it. Chris Watson from Cabaret Voltaire does really intense field recordings that are like, the sounds of bugs eating a zebra carcass and stuff.
I have to ask Tim, have you ever heard a hippo fart?
No.
Well, it's to be investigated. Neither have I. No, but it's to be investigated because we talk about.
I think I've seen a video of that on Instagram.
It has to be investigated because it's got to be horrendous.
Were your parents farmers? You said you grew up in a farm town.
Yeah, my grandfather was.
Okay.
So yeah, my first job was like selling corn on the side of the, the main street, and then
I love corn on the cob. It's one of my favorite foods.
The best. Yeah.
And it is the best.
Did they have livestock as well? Was it the whole production?
They did. They had a lot when my mom was a little kid. But when I was around, it was all just beef cattle.
Okay. Was there ever a cow that you befriended?
Not really. No, I could never really tell them apart.
They're kind of like they're cows.
I'd sit there waiting for the bus and just stare at them.
Like a lamb, a sheep. Yeah. A cow. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I mean, so basically, your discovery and your curiosity of music made you want to move out of that from that profession. I had to do it. I had to do it.
Well, no, I worked like 2 weeks at a grocery store, and on my lunch break was at the record shop that I would go every 2 days to.
Yep.
And they were like, "Hey, we're hiring. You want to work here?" And then was like, that's all I've done now.
Didn't look back.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'm trying to think some plugs of things coming up.
Well, I got I'm coming back to New York October 25th to do we're doing a record release show at the Fridman Gallery.
All right.
For about back in 2021, I got asked by Wave Farm and the John Cage Trust to put on a performance of Cage's Rose Art Mix, which is a tape piece of his.
Sure.
Which was like a 6-hour performance that we did in the John Cage Trust house. And so we're doing a record of that. And so we're going to have the record release party. I'm going to do a little mini Rose Art Mix installation there.
Are you going to be in town for, I assume, a few days at that point, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you might, because I have to do, Child Abuse has to do a show with Flesh Narc from from Denton around that time. Because I still have to book it, so we can maybe talk about that. Maybe you might want to jump
let's
on
do it.
Something.
Yeah, for sure.
Or that show.
Did Wolf Eyes play with Child Abuse in the early I feel like
maybe, I can't remember. I mean,
like,
I
feel like there was an early LA gig that we maybe played with you guys.
But that might have been a duo at that time. I joined after about 14 months.
Oh, okay.
I don't. No, that could have been Child Bite or Child Pornography. It could have been one of those bands.
But certainly wasn't Child Support. The coming Tim Dahl.
Yeah, that's another spin-off.
Extrapolation.
No, I did with Wolf Eyes. I mean, with Lutenbachers, we did a show just a couple.
Yeah,
of
I'm
years
sure.
Yeah, but anyhow, so yeah, we can talk about that. Trying to think what else. So you have that coming up, October 25th. I don't know. We'll have.
Well,
to
look.
If you're in town, let's get together.
I'll end with this. Here we are, 2023, still alive, still stubborn, still making music for the very fine or deaf of hearing. Ain't gonna stop. Still going. No. Keep going. That is why we are here as the Lydian Spin with Lydia Launch, Tim Dahl, and Aaron Dilloway, because we're just stubborn motherfuckers with a need to express ourselves. And kind of a musical exorcism of the highest or lowest order, depending on your view on what exactly it is we do. And I thank you.
I thank you
for being.
I gotta say, total honor to be on the show. I had a Lydia. I had your poster up in high school. I gotta tell you, the one with the you had the tarantula on your shoulder.
Oh yeah. What'd you think about that? You think, you know, you liked it, you know it. It's good for young boys.
My parents were like, I didn't have.
Well, after that poster,
I had the Lydia Lunch poster.
Many years later, 3 spiders tried to kill me, and I think it was the children of that tarantula. But I'm doing fine now. I'm doing good. Anyway, better me you Farrah Fawcett, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Hello.